Today, very important news, folks, to get caught up on. The CPI, inflation, cost of living number, the CEO that got taken out, housing, real estate, rents, homelessness, people living in cars, a lot more. Please make sure you're subscribed. Let's go ahead and get right into it. First of all, happy holidays. How does it work? You say happy holidays until Christmas Day, then you say Merry Christmas on Christmas Day? Is that how it works? I'm not sure. Anyways, happy holidays, Merry Christmas if it's not too early to say that. It is December 11th, 2024. And let's talk about the CEO. Now, we told you here way before this happened, I think early 2024, that you're going to start seeing a lot more situations like this, a lot more disgruntled people. This person was someone that had a severe back injury, and the cost really affected him. Apparently, he got denied for certain services. But he was a very well-educated person, this suspect, and this, the alleged suspect for this. He was a very promising student, a very smart person with multiple degrees. He had considered doing a bombing. There was a lot of speculation and talk that this was a hit job, that he was a gun for hire, so to speak. But we do see the history of his own personal struggles with the cost of health and possibly getting declined or turned down for healthcare. And when you look at the CEO, as I reported, I think the day after it happened, under his watch, his company United had a big uptick in denials for people trying to get claims, right? Now, you can say that, well, it's not necessarily real claims because there's fraud, insurance fraud, stuff like that. The bottom line is the number of denials drastically increased under his watch. But that's corporate America. The more you take from people, the more you deny claims and insurance, the more money you make. And it's all about profits. All right. So it's not just him. I think it's the entire system. But now other CEOs are feeling a bit frightened and threatened because of this. And some people have even labeled this vigilante justice, right? I don't call for any sort of violence. I don't think that is the solution. There's a much easier and safer way to make changes. And it can be done through legislation. And it can very easily be done. That's why I get so disappointed and even disgusted at both parties. Now, I've tried to say things here to people because most people belong in one camp or another. I don't belong to either one, left or right. I've tried to say things nice and not so nice about each party, things that I agree with, things that I disagree with. But every time I do it, I end up getting backlash and losing people, losing viewers. And because people are so divided, if you say something nice about this side, the other side's going to be upset. They're going to be mad at you. If you say something bad about this side, that side's going to get mad. If you say something bad about that side, the other side's going to be glad. But then the other people, you see what I'm saying? So it's a no-win situation. So I'm going to go to a no politics platform here on this channel. No politics. But the bottom line is a lot of these problems we see can be fixed through the system, through legislation, not vigilante justice, not, nonviolence is what I preach. This can all be fixed. And we talk about solutions here all the time. Look at the latest spending package, the foreign aid package, nearly, is it $1 billion? Let me look it up here for you. The latest one here just came out in the news today, $1 billion more in aid, foreign aid for drones, high mobility rocket systems, and additional sustainment support. See, that's what gets me is we're throwing money all over the world, but yeah, there's very simple things that can be done. Look at housing. Look at housing for homeless. Look at housing for the people, the victim of storms, right? They could have very easily been reimbursed with the amount of money we're just dropping from a helicopter all across the globe. But it's not just a U.S. problem. See, people hear this and they think, oh, he's criticizing the current administration. And then in a few months, they'll say, oh, I'm criticizing that administration just because I'm talking about these things. No, folks, it is a systemic problem. It doesn't have anything to do with the administration. Sure, they're both, I hesitate to say this, they're both at fault, I think, for not doing enough or for doing the wrong thing. But take a look at this here just to kind of prove my point on this. And I think Business Insider said it very accurately in a recent headline just in the last couple of days. It's not just the U.S. Housing around the world is more expensive than it was prior to the 2008 peak. And that's according to the IMF, right? So anyone sitting here thinking, oh, new leadership here in the United States is going to fix everything, I think you're on hopium. I think you're smoking something. I think you're, what's the word? I think you're over optimistic. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I mean, there can be something wrong with that. If you have expectations, if you have high expectations, you're going to be disappointed. I have very low expectations. I mean, people call me doom and gloom for that. People call me a fearmonger for that. All I'm saying is I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. But in order to wake people up, I think it's going to have to get a lot worse. That's why I'm probably one of the few people that thinks a economic collapse is better than this inflate into infinity. Right? We're talking about the money supply, inflation, throwing money at the problem, more fuel on the fire. And I think a lot of you agree with me. Some of you don't. Some of you think a drop or decline or economic collapse is the worst thing that can happen. Well, it's definitely more frightening because it happens all of a sudden. You wake up and you find out all these banks failed and all these other companies along with it, the domino effect, tons of layoffs, 2008 all over again. The powers that be don't want that to happen because that's way too obvious. But a slow motion frog in the pot where the water keeps getting warmer and warmer and the frog doesn't notice it until he's already reached the boiling point. I think that's what they're doing to people. It's just going to get worse and worse. Nobody's really scared though. Everybody's out spending money. You still see the malls full of people, stadiums packed full of people, people spending thousands of dollars to go see Taylor Swift and other pop artists, maybe rock too. I think Metallica's pretty expensive. Anyways, people are really not afraid of anything happening because this is happening very slowly but steadily. And with that, let's talk about the latest numbers here that just came out. Annual inflation rate accelerates to 2.7% in November. They're saying as expected. Well, if you listen to the central bank, they said we're on our way to 2%, which still doesn't fix anything. It just means people are going broke more slowly is what that means, right? When inflation is decelerating, it just means people are going broke just more slowly. Actually, that's one of the viewers on this channel that put it like that. I think that's a good way to describe it. People are becoming poor, but more slowly. And I should probably do a better job of calling out the people or acknowledging the people that give me ideas or phrases like this from Off-Grid Wealth Management. Reword it this way: you are getting poorer more slowly. That's what declining inflation is, folks. We need deflation, but deflation, of course, none of the leaders want that because it rips the facade off of the growing economy narrative, because they say spending is growing economy or economic growth. So you have to have continuous money thrown at the problem. In other words, debt, deregulation of the banks. And we're going to see a lot more deregulation. And I think that's going to be inflationary. Some of you disagree with me, but I think it's going to be it's going to be inflationary. Did I say deflation? Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm not going to go back and edit this because I just want to get to the news here. I got a lot more things to get into today. And Barron's put it very well. Inflation isn't coming down. Technically, it has been coming down, which means you're going broke just more slowly. Inflation isn't coming down. Why the Fed is poised to cut interest rates anyway, right? And they go into a narrative on that. Of course, I think the way I explained it is the way that is most easily able to understand amongst the population here. They're not going to raise rates, folks. They're scared of something snapping or breaking, and they have to keep this steady grind of inflation going to continue the illusion of economic growth. And we talked about in our last report about how a lot of the numbers and data right now is where it was at prior to the financial crisis. Go back and watch that video. We had a lot of charts on it. We had the University of Michigan consumer sentiment levels are down to financial crisis levels, but yet the economy's strong and everything's fine and everything's so wonderful that we need to drop rates, right? Just try to add those numbers together and they don't add up to what it should. That's a 2 and 2 makes 5 type of thing to say the economy's strong, but yet we need to lower rates. We need to have the banks with 0% reserve requirement. We need to have over 2,000 down payment assistance programs across the United States because housing affordability is at all-time worst levels right now. And not just the United States. I'm not just criticizing what's going on now here. This is a global problem, folks. The type of money programs that we have right now, the system of money right now, is a global situation. We thought the BRICS nation were going to come out and turn their backs on the dollar and come out with a new currency. We've seen them go outside of the dollar for trade, but we really haven't seen it rock the dollar like some people expected with a massive dump of U.S. debt. Could it still happen? Possibly, be ready for it. Be ready for that situation to pop off. But if you just look at the dollar, though, the purchasing power, I just read since 2020, the dollar lost another 20% of its purchasing power. That's not what the dollar is at when you look at the dollar index, because that's just compared to other fiat currencies. But when you look at what the dollar buys, the dollar was devalued 20% just in the past 4 years. Then the inflation number that we just talked about, accelerating to 2.7%, if they use real numbers like they did 20-something years ago, if they use all the data with all the expenses that most people have to pay for, then it would be much higher than 2.7. I'd say it would be between like 6 and 10%, probably closer to 10%, depending on your location, though. All right, we just spoke about the housing situation, home prices, the housing bubble, as some would call it. There are still affordable places. The problem is you're going to be in a lot more danger if you move to a place that has really low home prices. Here's a recent example. The poorest town in the USA is an hour away from Cincinnati. The median home price is $109,000. This seemingly unassuming town has been left to languish some 5 decades after it rose to prominence. Now it's the nation's poorest. So you're going to have some bad neighborhoods. A lot of things are going to be run down. And naturally, because of that, you're going to have high crime. Lincoln Heights, Ohio, a small town just an hour away from Cincinnati on Route 75. Talks about the history of it here. But bottom line is, it's not just this city. If you want affordable housing, you're going to end up losing some safety and some security because you're going to see high crime. Where there's poverty, there's crime, sadly. And the really sad part is people that are paying high prices in cities, just take New York City, San Francisco, they're seeing tons of crime as well. But I'd imagine it's even a lot worse in some of these really, really depressed towns where there's probably no jobs. And if there's a median home price of $109,000, that should tell you something right there, what type of area it might be. Now, as far as tracking home prices overall, we've looked at a few different metrics. We look at the Fred data. We look at ones that come out from the different real estate sites like Redfin. Redfin's new gauge of housing prices, which is similar to the Case-Shiller Home Price Index, shows that home prices rose about 1% month over month as of October. This is a new tool that we'll be quoting, during our videos, along with the other realtor numbers, the Fred numbers, etc. And there's actually some good news, though, in housing when it comes to rents. Asking rents fell another 0.7% over the previous month, and that's the lowest level since March 2022. That's out of Redfin. So in many cases, it may be more beneficial to rent right now versus buying, especially if you think it's a bubble and prices are going to start coming down. Well, if they don't change all of the programs and everything that led up to the prices to this point, then prices are still going to go up, right? Something has to change. There has to be more, I don't want to say the word regulation because people think deregulation is a good thing. It can be less red tape. When it comes to building houses, less regulation can definitely be a good thing. But when it comes to the banks, that's the area where I think we need more regulation because banks just have way too much power right now. And they're guaranteed endless life support, especially the big mega banks. That's just going to cause this inflation to get worse as banks are not going to be afraid to loan out money if they know they're always going to get the bailout in the end. Now, back to rents for just a minute here. One of the cities that's seeing some pretty significant rent declines is actually Las Vegas. Let's take a quick listen here.
We're starting to see rent prices cooling off around Las Vegas. Rent prices in November fell by 0.8%, and it marked the 4th consecutive month of slight declines. That said, average rents are now back to where they were a year ago.
So coming down in Las Vegas a little bit, but only back to where they were a year ago. Nationally, according to Redfin, we're down to 2022 numbers, so about a 2-year low in rents, but not in every area. Some cities still have rents going up, but when you look at the big picture, overall, on average, rents are coming down slightly. Now, in some other not so good news, and something I wish they would spend some of this money on that we're giving out all over the world, is places for people to park and more places for homeless people. San Francisco to close the only safe parking site for homeless living in vehicles. They got to be out there by early 2025. So imagine living in your vehicle and basically being evicted from the parking lot that you park in. It's pretty sad. The Bayview Vehicle Triage opened in January 2022. Since then, it's run into numerous costly problems. Again, where's the $1 billion that we just sent overseas? How's about buying a parking lot and letting people park there? Is that too much to ask? All these vacant commercial buildings and everything like that, you could probably get it for very, very cheap, but yet we choose to spend money on other expenditures. Dozens of people who live there will have to find somewhere else to live to call home, and many don't know where they'll go. So if you have a roof over your head this cold winter season and during the holidays, but that could be said year round, but especially now, feel very, very blessed. And I thankful every day for just being out of harm's way here. Things could happen anytime. I'm in California. We have fires. We just had a lot of businesses lose money here because of high winds. And because of the fire risk here in California, they had to shut the power down in many areas. A lot of small businesses lost money, the ones that had refrigerators and freezers, some convenience stores. In some of the cities up in the mountains like Ramona, and some of the more elevated cities here in San Diego like Alpine, a lot of those businesses had to shut down, and they lost a lot of money. One, no customers when they're shut down. But two, their frozen food and their refrigerated food, a lot of it went bad. It spoiled because of no electricity for about 2 days in some areas. Now, let's go ahead and wrap this up with one final segment here, and this is going to be Tesla stock, folks. You guys know that I was very bearish on pretty much all electric vehicles because the popularity has dropped. There was a big euphoria in 2020 and over the past few years, but I missed out on this, folks, and I'll admit it. I'll let you know when I do a good trade or investment, and I'll let you know when not so good. And not that I invested in this, but the fact that I didn't invest in it is kind of disappointing. But Tesla stock, folks, take a look, over $420 today. And I actually thought about buying this. This is why I'm bringing it up. In 2023, when it dipped below 120 there, late 2022, early 23, I really thought about getting into it. So I missed about a 3-bagger. I missed about a tripling of that. But if you look at the chart I'm looking at here right now on the screen, to me, folks, this looks like a nice time to short or to go short on it via a put option. In other words, betting against it, because I can't see it going up much higher with this current spike here recently, just in the past, since October, from 220 to 420, folks. That is insane. And it's made Elon, I think I read the second richest person in the world with a net value or net worth now of $400 billion. Here's a max chart here. Wow, picking this up back before 2020, you'd have had it under $25 in many cases, folks. So live and learn. What can you do? Let me know. Do you hold the stock, Tesla stock? If you do, are you selling or are you holding for more upside? I wouldn't be holding, but I'm not telling anybody what to do. Please let me know what you think about that down in comments, and all the other topics and stories. The CEO shooting, the person that is the suspect, he had issues with the healthcare system because of an injury, a back injury. What do you think about the housing numbers, the rents dropping, median home price going up, though, according to Redfin data, the Tesla stock, all of it? Please let me know down in the comments. Everybody, thanks for watching. Please make sure you have that notification bell on. Make sure to subscribe. Keep this channel alive. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye for now. Keep stacking. Peace.